Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and the good old boys from down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys from Africa, you know we love the Big C tribe. We love you in Canada, the Big C. There's no one we love more than you good old boys down south, in the land of the free, and the home on the brave, on a beautiful March 2nd, 2018. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, let me step back and quote the great OJs. We're living for the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and that's when it goes down. You know, we got the NFL Combine going on.
Yeah.
So football is officially back.
Yeah.
We got trades popping all over the place in the NFL.
Yeah.
So the rest of the sports right now is insignificant.
Yeah, I know every sport is significant for you good old boys down south. You love the football the way you love your barbecue ribs, Big C. Out here in California, the world in the eyes of Hollywood will be in Hollywood, California. Over the weekend, they're having the Oscars, which started back in 1929, May 16th, the first Oscars, and they've actually handed out 3,048 statuettes since the 1929 Oscars, so a lot of people are looking forward to that in L.A. Also, the Black Panther movie has earned over $800 million, and it's only been out 3 weeks. It's yet to even open in China. It opens China on March the 9th. And also a Big C, in the world of sports and basketball, Arizona, I think is a bad thing that they've punished so many other coaches in schools, but they let this good old boy get a pass and the standing ovation. I do want to say this segment sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. You can drive a car or you can drive a Cadillac. Big C, in the world of the NBA, just want to get your thoughts real quick. I know we have a Wilt Chamberlain. If people knew how good he was, they wouldn't watch LeBron James as much. They wouldn't watch what Kobe Bryant did or Steph Curry as much because they never saw a big man dominate the game the way Wilt Chamberlain did. Big C, your thoughts?
They never saw a player dominate the game the way that Wilt Chamberlain did, Charlton. You know, you think about today is the 56th anniversary of him scoring the 100 points. And it's almost like to today's broadcaster that game didn't exist.
Yeah.
Even Wilt's career didn't exist.
Yeah.
When they sit up and talk about the greatest of all time,
yeah,
the accolades that some of these players achieved, none of them even cross hairs with Wilt Chamberlain. You think about averaging, 50-20 in a regular season twice. That's 50 points and 20 rebounds a game for an entire season twice. And no one's even come close to that, Charles.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the 100-point outburst, people revel about Kobe Bryant. I believe he did 81, 83 points one time.
Yeah.
He did 60 in his final game. Jordan was up there a couple times.
Yeah.
But Wilt averaged 54 for a season.
Yeah.
So when they see, we saw Davis a couple of days ago down in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Go 54 and 20 rebounds. And,
yeah.
All the accolades that he received about that.
Yeah.
But when you do this every night, and the young guys now that that broadcast the sports and they talk about, well, Michael Jordan is Michael was a tremendous player.
Oh yeah.
But Michael's stats are only half of what Wilt's were for a season.
Yeah, that's incredible.
When you think about that, it's incredible. I mean, it's unfortunate we don't have the media coverage from those days that we have now.
Yeah. Because
so many great performances, will never be seen by today's fan of the game, so they get, bushwhacked by the modern media.
Yeah.
And they forget about history.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of the guys that are doing the sports these days can do anything but read a teleprompter.
Yeah, and in fact, a lot of people learn to read a teleprompter, but what do they do when the teleprompter stops? Sometimes they stop reading too, Big C. And just thinking about the great Wilt and how great he was, it's almost how we talked about in golf Tiger Woods, 14 majors. Nobody's close to him. Only Jack had more than 18. And we talk about great players, Usain Bolt. When you're watching the Olympics, when you're watching guys run, we've talked about Michael Johnson in the past, Carl Lewis, but nobody does it like Usain Bolt. Barry Bonds in baseball, you want to see Barry Bonds hit the home run because it's an exciting thing to have when you have someone doing that. We talked about Gretzky and how dominant he was, and so many great athletes in the history of the sports universe. If you look at today, you just brought up Wilt had scored 100 points. The individual leaders right now, you have Harden out of Houston. He's played in 54 games, Big C. He's averaging 31.3 points a game. How about you compare what he's done if Wilt Chamberlain was also sharing time on SportsCenter, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you think about that. That's 23 points a game less than what Wilt was averaging in a season.
Yeah.
54 points and 24 rebounds a game.
Yeah.
And so people are amazed by what Harden is doing, which is a tremendous, scoring feat that he's doing since he's gone to Houston.
Yeah.
But, Wilt did this all the time throughout his career. He backed down in the latter part of his career when he was with the Lakers because he had Jerry West, Gail Goodrich, Happy Harrison, and players of that nature, on the roster.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to shoulder the load all the time. So, but that shows the greatness of Wilt is that he was willing to defer and share.
Yeah.
I mean, Harden. When you look at how Houston goes, is how Harden goes now.
Yeah.
And as far as accomplishing what he does as a teammate, he has to get to the pinnacle of where Wilt has been.
Yeah.
To be considered one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. When you brought it up, it's just looking at numbers, and I know you're really big on numbers. That's why you don't get caught up in what people say, because you just Google everything, and you say, well, wait a minute, what are they excited? Google's not as excited. You look at Harden. They run 14 straight. He scored 40 points 9 times this season. And Wilt, that was a day's work. In fact, if you told him he only got 40 3/4 work, if you told Wilt he only had 40, he's asking for the statistician because he doesn't believe that. He thinks they robbed him of 14 points, Wilt Chamberlain, with all the points that he was scoring. And so that's what makes the game of the NBA so exciting. You cannot say that one guy would be dominant in one generation and not the next. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But what you cannot dispute are the numbers don't lie. Big C, I want to go down.
Well, Charlton, you can.
Yeah.
If you look at the big men in the NBA,
yeah,
Wilt could have played in any era.
Yep.
Shaq could have played in any era.
Yep.
Kareem could have played in any era. Bill Russell could have played in any era. These guys, because of their great athleticism, would have been dominant.
Yeah.
It's not about the game. The game would have came to them.
Yeah.
Because you'd have built your team around these great players to utilize their great talents.
Yeah, and that's something that we love, the fact that we have this instant replay and we have videotape and well, back in the day when I was doing my thing, I had VCRs that I could look at, but now a lot of guys can just Google things and watch it on YouTube. Davis out of New Orleans, you look at him, 28.1 points a game. Okay, if that was Wilt would be upset that he thought they really robbed him of points if he only averaged 28 points. He's played in 55 games. He's a dominant player and, of course, an all-star, but 28 points a game for New Orleans, and that's a team that's in the hunt for a playoff, obviously, but they have to keep winning because, especially playing in the West with a 35 and 26 clip, that if you think about him, he averaged like 45 points, 17 rebounds, 5 blocks in a game just over the week. But you can't compare him production-wise to Wilt, but you can compare him size-wise, not his size as a body, but his length, his tallness. But how would he even compare? Could you imagine watching Wilt against Davis? Big C, what are your thoughts on how that matchup would have turned out if we could see those two players playing right now? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, physically, he could not have played defense against Wilt. Wilt would have just backed him up under the basket and camped him down there. Physically, he's built more like a Bill Russell.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he has the defensive explosion that Bill Russell possessed.
Yeah.
The player that I would compare Davis to the most, in recent times would be Bob McAdoo.
Oh, yeah.
And Bob McAdoo is one of those quiet players that people don't speak a lot about.
Yeah.
But Bob McAdoo, when he came into the NBA his first 3 years, he averaged 33 points a game.
Yeah.
Over his first 3 seasons in the NBA with the Buffalo Braves.
Yeah.
And was Rookie of the Year and an MVP.
Yeah.
So, they forget about players that in those in-between times
Yeah.
that were great, and they just don't realize it because they don't know how to go in depth enough in their research, in these research departments. They want to focus on 5 or 6 players.
Yeah. Yeah.
Saying that these are the only players that were ever significant
Yeah.
in the history of the NBA.
Yeah. Well, I think about another player that maybe looks more like Wilt than anyone else in the league at this time, maybe outside of Dwight Howard. Giannis Antetokounmpo out of Milwaukee. He's played in 57 games. He's averaging 27.2 points a game. They call him the Greek Freak, Big C. But if you think about it, and again, I love the point you brought up, because everything's on TV now, so people tend to think that's the first time it's ever happened in the history of the universe. But 27.2 points a game, if that were Wilt Chamberlain's stats, imagine if he averaged what Wilt is averaging. And they call this guy the Greek Freak. If he's the Greek Freak, what was Wilt Chamberlain, the Universal Freak? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, we're going to leave the social life out of this.
Okay.
We all know about the book, okay? So
I understand.
let's not go that far into the program.
Okay.
But, Giannis is a tremendous player, Charles.
Yeah.
But Giannis falls in the lines of a lot of players that were his size.
Yeah. Yeah.
That played years ago in the NBA. I mean, you think about it, he's the same size as Kevin McHale.
Yeah.
Kevin McHale is one of the 50 all-time best players to play in the NBA. Won championships with the Celtics.
Yeah.
He was a 6'11" guy who could handle the ball.
Yep.
And so Giannis is not new. It's just Giannis is in a market where they need something that's exciting, so he's talked about a lot. You go back and you think about Tracy McGrady when he came into the NBA at 6'9", right out of high school.
Yeah.
Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett is and the Greek Freak physically are basically the same.
Yeah.
And Kevin Garnett, basically had the same type of career when he was in Minnesota as the Greek is having in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
It's just when Kevin was in Minnesota, you got to look at who was the height of the NBA. Shaq and Kobe were dominating.
Yeah.
You had San Antonio popping off championships, John.
Yeah.
And Minnesota just could not get into that run.
Yeah.
So he was never noticed until he got to Boston winning a championship.
Yeah.
But here's a guy that came right out of high school and played 21, 22 seasons in the NBA.
Well, that's a good point. Let's bring up, consider the best player right now. I mean, everyone can talk about the best players, in the world or in the league. But as far as the best in the universe, people say LeBron James. Well, that's because they hadn't saw Wilt. Now, you can't take anything from LeBron. LeBron's an amazing talent. But let's look at numbers. And numbers don't tend to lie, Big C. He's averaging 26.7 points a game. He's played in 60 games this season. He's played in six more games than Harden has. So Harden's averaging more, but he's played in 6 fewer games, and he doesn't pass as much. But LeBron James, the king, they call him the king. But if you told Wilt Chamberlain that they wrote him down for 26 points during a dominant game where he dominated the game, he want to talk to the statistician, okay, Big C? Because that's not a lot in Wilt Chamberlain's role. Compare LeBron James. If he were playing today against the great Wilt, Big C, what would we be talking about? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he wouldn't be dominating in the paint. That's the one thing that would change about LeBron's game going against Wilt.
Yeah.
Wilt would not be intimidated physically. He would invite LeBron to drive the ball to the basket.
Yeah.
And so many players now get out of the way. Wilt would stand tall and challenge everything above the rim.
Yeah.
So that's the difference in today's big man versus the big man from 30 years ago, Charlton, 40 years ago, is that they dominated the paint. They didn't move out. They weren't out there, parked out there on their three-point arc.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, let me get on SportsCenter.
Right.
They played the position that they were hired to play.
Yeah.
And that's the center. That's to shut down the paint.
Yep.
Get the rebounds intimidate their opponents.
I think Joel Embiid will learn what you just brought up coming up. If you're going to get good, you got to be good at what you do. You can't be good at everything, Big C, but maybe people want to be now. I got to bring it to the best shooter in the universe. I don't think anyone can dispute the fact that Steph Curry's done it. He's averaging 26.7 points a game, just like LeBron, but he's only played in 47 games this year. Okay, in 47 games, averaging 26.7 points a game. We know because he doesn't have to do it on his own. I think his career will be lengthened because they have Durant to go along with he and Thompson, and they just have a system that lets guys shoot the ball. Draymond Green shoots it also. But with Steph Curry, his father played in the NBA as well, Dale Curry. But give me your thoughts that no one can compare Steph Curry against the great Wilt. It would be a mismatch. Maybe, because he would have to chase Curry, okay? But give me your thoughts when Steph Curry's going off and hitting 50, and people are jumping up and down in their seats because they've never seen something like that. You brought up the fact that Wilt averaged a lot more than that when he played, Big C, and didn't have a three-point shot. Your thoughts, Big C?
No, I mean, he had 2 points, Straughn, but what I like in Steph's career, too, right now is Kareem's. After Kareem won a couple of championships, the Lakers organization realized that they needed to surround Kareem with more bodies. That could play basketball. And so you look at how they start drafting players and putting players in the lineup, just like with the Warriors. And if you look at it, the figurehead with the Warriors was Jerry West. The same figurehead who built up the Lakers around Kareem. When he brought in Magic, he brought in Worthy, he brought in A.C. Green, he brought in Byron Scott. He brought in some trades. He brought in McAdoo. McAdoo came in. Thompson's dad came in. And so when you had these players around him that took some of the pressure off of him, that he didn't have to score all the time. That he could score when he wanted because he had an unstoppable shot, rather. And that's just like with Steph. When you look at Steph will start shooting from half court if he has to. But there's nobody who can guard his shot because you never know what his range is. He has no filter. And that's how Kareem was. Once he got the ball on the post, if he wanted to shoot the sky hook, all you can do is try to get in position for a rebound and hope that he hits.
That's true. And if you're some of the guys playing today, they'd be out. If you're 7 feet tall, they play out along the three-point range too because they want to be the guy that shoots three-pointers as opposed to the guy that gets rebounds. I got to bring it to a player out of Oakland, California. I think he's in too small a market, but he's a stud. He's just someone. He reminds me of Isaiah Thomas back in the day when he played with Detroit. That's Damian Lillard. Portland Trailblazers played in 54 games this year, averaging 26.3 points a game, Big C. Obviously, Wilt Chamberlain would not be impressed by the point total of anyone that we're talking about today because even the highest point leader in Harden only averaged 31.3. But Damian Lillard with the Portland Trailblazers has that team rolling right now, and at 35-26 on the season. Got a win against Minnesota last night. But this kid, if he were in a larger market, maybe Los Angeles, I know he's a great player, but you're kind of going under the radar living up in Portland, even though he says he wants to retire there. Everybody says that while they were still paying your paycheck. Just give me your thoughts on Lillard being a clutch guy that you can trust with the ball in his hand, down by one, and you have 10 seconds left. I want the ball in Lillard's hands, Big C. Your thoughts?
We're talking he's led that organization for the last 4 or 5 years. Even after the departure of LaMarcus Aldridge to San Antonio, he still held that franchise intact. And that's what you've had in Portland. Portland just happened to be in an unenviable position of being in the same division where Golden State is. They were also tracked behind the Clippers when they had a solid team there, making playoff runs. Then all that notoriety went to the Lakers because of their draft in this past season and also bringing Magic Johnson into the front office. Oklahoma City is also considered in the West as well as Houston. But you've always had perennial power San Antonio. So people overlook Portland. Until Portland can get past the second round in the playoffs, regardless whether it's Leonard or whoever they have in the lineup, Charles, they're going to be looked at in the same light. It's just a good regular season team.
Well, Big C, we'll run down a few more just to get up to the top 10. But another player that may also in the eyes of some people, be considered the number one sports player in the universe is Durant. Kevin Durant obviously has added that extra bolt of energy that you need in the Lightning Bolts, in the Golden State Warriors. And not only is he the same frame that Wilt has, doesn't match him in size. I mean, Wilt was not as big as Shaq, but he's more like Dwight Howard from back, when Dwight Howard was balling. But I want to get your thoughts. Durant versus Wilt, 10 seconds left, game tied, NBA Finals Game 7. If you had Wilt with the ball, would you put Durant on him? If you had Durant with the ball, would you put Wilt? Who would win that matchup, Big C, in your thoughts?
Well, you're not going to match them up against each other because Wilt is not going to move more than 2 feet from the basket with Durant on his back.
Yeah.
He's going to dunk the ball with Durant hanging on it.
So now we got JaVale McGee now, right?
I mean, there's not many bodies that could have competed with Wilt.
Yeah.
You got to realize when Wilt was in college at Kansas, he was a 7-foot high jumper.
Oh, really?
Not only was he an All-American basketball player,
yeah,
but he competed on the track team.
Yeah.
And at that time, that was Olympic caliber, high jumping 7 feet.
Yeah.
So, Wilt was just a dominant individual, and that's what a lot of people don't understand about Wilt.
Yeah.
How great an athlete that he was, even at his height and size.
Yeah.
I mean, he got larger and developed even more strength once he got to the NBA because he was a weightlifting fanatic.
Yeah.
But, Shaq is the only guy that I've seen in modern times maybe that was close to being as strong as Wilt.
Yeah.
As far as being able to dominate people physically. And, just like with LeBron at his position,
yeah,
officials allowed Shaq to bully people just like they allowed Bron to bully people. But Kevin Durant is all finesse. He's a guy that if you got a point guard out there, you got a number 2 guard, you got a guy in the 3 position.
Yeah.
None of them can guard Durant because he's the ultimate mismatch in the NBA.
Yeah.
He can break you down with the crossover. He can pull up with the 3. He can take you to the rim. Being 6'11", being agile,
yeah,
and explosive, there's no matchup. So when everybody talks about the Greek Freak in Milwaukee,
yeah,
all you got to do is talk about the Bay Area Freak.
Yep.
With Durant.
Yeah, that's true. And then one thing I love about Durant, I don't know if it was your Escalade they ball, but it looked like it. It was dirty. It was Durant and LeBron James. They were driving around with, I think her name was Terry Champion, and they were in, I guess they were in Cleveland. They were driving through some snow, and they were talking about, I guess the All-Star was made right around the All-Star game, and they were asking them questions about what made them hooked on the game, what made them get hooked on basketball. And Big C, they both talked about when they picked up the basketball. The only thing I did not like about that commercial, I thought that Cadillac was too clean, Big C. They had it too clean. It wasn't being original, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you pull something off the showroom floor, it's going to look that way.
Okay.
The real man's car, it's not going to be like that,
Yeah.
Sometimes you park it under a tree and there's too many birds up in the tree at night roosting.
Yeah.
Sometimes you find a water hole and you just want to run through and try to splash somebody.
Yeah, that's funny too. But I love that commercial. And I want to go to another big guy. A guy that people thought could be the marquee player for the Sacramento Kings. And I thought he could have been as well. But there's something about now players want to be liked. And then fans and media want to say, well, we don't like that guy, so we're going to get rid of someone who's averaging the kind of points as Cousins was putting up. So before DeMarcus Cousins got injured down at OKC, on a play that was away from the ball, just trying to throw the ball back in bounds, right? Averaging 25.2 points a game, even though he didn't play as many games because he got injured, of course, Big C. And so when you look at how many games Cousins played in, he only played in 48 games. But to average 25 points a game in the 48 games that he played, I thought that he was on pace for being one of the best centers that we have in the NBA. And a lot of people say he maybe is the best. I don't know how he'll come back from his injury, but a lot of players come back with good, physical therapy and their conditioning. But how would he match up, in your opinion, to the great Wilt Chamberlain? And they both have the same kind of size. Marcus shoots threes where Wilt doesn't. But give me your thoughts on what that matchup would look like, Big C, your thoughts.
Well, once again, you're looking at a guy who I don't think he'd want to go in and mix it up for 40 minutes with Wilt.
Yeah.
He's going to want to keep Wilt more on the outside. But when I look at Cousins physically, he reminds me of a cross between two players.
Yeah.
And that's Elvin Hayes and the late Moses Malone.
Yeah.
And they 6'11" and 6'9" each.
Yeah.
But they had that outside dynamic in their game that they could go outside and shoot the ball.
Yeah.
They didn't have to park it up under the rim, but they could play in the paint.
Yeah.
They were just multifaceted players, both NBA champions. And so when you look, they were more of a hybrid like what you see with Cousins.
Yeah.
A guy that could go inside, outside. They played against Wilt. They played against Kareem.
Yeah.
But they could not dominate either one of those guys physically.
Yeah, that's a good point. I love the fact that when Cousins was in Sacramento, being in Northern California, just watching the way he played, he was very dominant, but he had a problem with personal fouls and being ejected from games. But someone who's not far behind him when it comes to that is Draymond Green for the Golden State Warriors, but he tends to get away with it because when you win, people don't judge you as harshly. And just a couple more players I want to get your thoughts before we get on to another topic. I look at what happened at OKC because Durant was there as well. So was Harden. Now, those two players have been in the top 10 of scoring this year. Harden, number 1, and Durant coming in at number 7. I look at Russell Westbrook. In 61 games, Big C, he's averaging 24.9 points a game, and there's no one that works as hard as Russell Westbrook on the court. I don't know what his conditioning regimen is. I don't know what kind of food he eats, but I want to get your thoughts. I don't even know if Wilt Chamberlain played as hard as Westbrook plays. Day in, day out, night in, night out. The guy never takes a break, it seems. Your thoughts on the energy that he has on the court. Did Wilt match that at all, or was he more a casual player, Big C? Your thoughts?
Wilt's going to be considered casual when it comes to James Harden. There's only one player that I can think of that even had that type of energy that
Westbrook
you're
has?
going to get with Westbrook.
Yeah.
And that's looking at Dennis Rodman.
Oh, yeah.
Dennis Rodman had that continuous motor. And he played offensively and defensively. He wasn't a great scorer, but he was always setting picks. He was around the rim trying to tip the ball back in, if not getting a rebound. But defense, he would play anybody that you had, whether he had to go against the point guard, whether you wanted him down in the post against your center. Dennis Rodman was a 5-position defensive player in the NBA.
Yeah.
And think about the hustle that it takes and the stamina to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that I've seen since Dennis Rodman has been Westbrook.
Yeah.
And he exhibits that every night. As you say, what is this guy running off of?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to go back to old-time baseball players.
Yeah.
That he was Lawrence Taylor. And when you remember announcers saying, this guy's got a continuous motor.
Yeah. He's like the Energizer Bunny. I'm sure whatever he's doing it right. I love guys that give it effort, especially in an age where you have some players that just take a day off. And people can say how great Harden is, and no one can dispute that. But no one can tell you that he worked as hard as Westbrook, and maybe that caused some of the friction. Westbrook reminds me like a Kobe Bryant, but maybe that kind of energy. I think Kobe matched Russell Westbrook in his energy. And when Shaq didn't want to work out as hard as Kobe, that also caused some friction down in Los Angeles. Big C, final player. Actually, two more I want to run your thoughts on as we close out this first segment. Kyrie Irving, Boston Celtics, played in 57 games, averaging 24.9 points a game. Obviously, can't compare him to Wilt, but if he played with Wilt, who would be drawn up? I mean, you can't argue anyone getting the ball over Wilt because he's averaging the points that he averages. No one ever matched that. But your game, how would you pit Kyrie Irving and Chamberlain on the same team? What would that look like? Who would be the go-to guy, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I saw that show with the Lakers years ago when I saw Gail Goodrich.
Yeah.
After he came out of UCLA and joined the Lakers.
Yeah.
He was that same style of guard that Kyrie is, except he was left-handed.
Yeah.
And so when you look at Kyrie Irving, how you match him up in today's game, Charlton, the closest I see him is Isaiah Thomas, the former Detroit Piston.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay? similar type game, speed, dynamic, change direction. Was fearless going into the paint.
Yeah.
That's what I see in Kyrie Irving. And so, putting him with Wilt, it would be nothing but an asset.
Yeah.
Because the way he can break a player down and penetrate the paint, and then you got Wilt with no one that can equal the force that he represents.
Yeah.
You always got a layup, a dunk.
Yeah, he didn't believe anything, but Duncan is natural like handshakes back in the day. Last player, as we talk about the top players in the NBA, and there's several others in the top 20, but I want to get your thoughts on Joel Embiid, because he's the new Wilt Chamberlain in the eyes of media. He's played in 48 games, even though he doesn't play a lot of minutes. He's averaging 23.9 points a game. We know he had the foot injuries, and so they want to rest him. If he wanted to get in better shape, just work out with Westbrook and you'll get in better shape. But Joel Embiid has a dynamic basketball style and can drop back and hit threes, even though that may cost Philly down the stretch because he should be getting rebounds and baskets and dunks. How about you play Joel Embiid and Chamberlain? If you're the coach and you have those two players going up against each other, who would win the battle, and your thoughts at why?
Well, Wilt's going to win the battle, Charlton, because Wilt was more stable.
Yeah.
Understanding the game. Joel is still learning the game. Now, if they were playing on the same team,
yeah,
they already saw that in the NBA when you had Wilt Chamberlain and Nate Thurman playing together, the first towers to ever play in the NBA together.
Yeah.
Okay? So, but Joel Embiid, what he does in Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia has already seen that.
Yeah.
When they had Caldwell Jones, Dale Dawkins, and I said his name earlier, and I'm spacing it right now.
Is that moonshine, Big C? Is that moonshine? In that lizard, you got to play. Did the lizard get out, Big C? They don't know you good boys eat lizard down in the South. I know you barbecuing that lizard. Maybe the lizard got the eye, Big C. Your thoughts?
But, they had the three centers on the team together there, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so that combination of Embiid, what he embodies, they've already had it. And so to get him to develop his game to be a fully faceted player, he steps outside of the paint and people make him vulnerable. He thinks that he's quicker than what he is.
Yep.
And so that's where his vulnerability lies. If he ever wanted to become that totally dominant player in the NBA, if he kept his game within 15 feet of the basket at all times, he's going to be unstoppable.
Yeah.
And that's right now what's hindering him. He has that Boogie Cousins syndrome.
Yeah.
Okay, and so as long as he has that Boogie Cousins syndrome, that's going to hurt him overall.
Yeah, I think a lot of times players, they don't understand the value of what they would be as far as helping the team if they were to focus on who's going to get rebounds. No matter how many people can shoot the three-point basket.
That player was Moses Malone.
Moses Malone. Yeah,
great Moses Malone.
Yeah, I understand. So when you think about that, and Wilt being an anniversary when he had such a dominant career and a dominant player, dominant personality, I think he was the original alpha male, Big C. I know people talk about, who's the dominant guy in the league now and who's the tough guy in the league, and Wilt was always balling. In fact, I think he did, if I might be, correct me if I'm wrong, but did he not play against the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lou Alcindor back in the day, Big C? Your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, Charlton, they went against each other. Their relationship went well beyond the NBA. You got to understand, when Kareem was in high school with young Lou Alcindor, it was very hard for him to find clothes that fit.
Yeah.
So whenever the Wilt was in town on a game, he always donated his suit to the young Lou Alcindor so that he would have clothes that fit him.
Oh, really?
So that relationship goes way back to when Lou Alcindor was in high school. They played against each other in the pros. You got to realize the Lakers, when Lou Alcindor came into the league, the Lakers were just winning a championship.
Yeah.
Turn around shortly later, the Milwaukee Bucks won a championship with then Lou Alcindor prior to becoming Kareem Abdul-Jabbar a couple years later. And then once Wilt had retired from the Lakers pulled the string to make the move to make Kareem a Los Angeles Laker.
That's amazing, Big C. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. For every sporting event and athletic event, you need athletic event and sporting insurance. They work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports, and whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer leagues, when you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you. Call 800-776-8624. That's 800-776-8624. And Big C, I think about some of the things you talked about, and the fact that I love it. And just for a thought, I think about what happened in Arizona in college basketball, and I think about all the schools that have ever gotten in trouble. Now, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Look at the White House, and 16 people have left the Trump administration since he's been.
That's this week.
That's this week. And ironically, it was on a week where Hope Hicks decided to step down, and she was a White House communications director. But I thought she stepped down a year ago. I thought they had I thought she'd been stepped over a year ago, but she's been with Trump for a long time. But she's out of there, okay? At the same time, Golden State goes back to Washington, and Durant gives $10 million to some, I guess, other kids of SOBs, Big C. If you follow Donald Trump, he donated $10 million to the kids of SOBs so they could have a better chance at a college education, and just really appreciate Kevin Durant for doing that. But I want to ask your thoughts. Sean Miller, of course we hope he's innocent, but I know what I heard. I heard on tape with my own ears. These not ears that I Googled. It was my own ears that heard where he was on tape doing some things that you're not supposed to do. What is Rick Pitino thinking right now, Big C? He's gotten let go for things that we didn't see him do either, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, what is any coach thinking right now that's been let go, they said, for lack of institutional control or improper funds distribution?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is right now with the NCAA knows that it's always been dirty. But its top boys right now have been exposed.
Yeah.
And you got these coaches saying, well, it's not a time to talk about it. It's not like the White House. Okay?
Yeah, not right now.
We're focusing on the basketball game. We're focusing on the tournament.
Yeah.
And that's what the NCAA is focusing on. They're focusing on the tournament right now. There will be a time for them to address this issue.
Yeah.
And that's after March Madness is over. So you really won't hear anything until April from the NCAA, because they got to make sure that the check goes through.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's the number one concern right now of the NCAA. It's not about the improprieties that have gone on. And they've been aware of it forever, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's like saying that everybody thought that Trump had a full head of hair.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh, he doesn't?
You know that ain't true. Okay?
Yeah.
That's how the NCAA is not knowing what's been going on.
Yeah.
But you know, if you were to sanction these top 25 programs that are in this FBI report, who's going to be your top 25 ranked teams in the NCAA tournament in March Madness?
Yeah.
You know, you got to really go down the list, and you got to start putting teams that were ranked 98th in the country in this tournament.
Yeah.
And so once you put all those teams in, how do you hold an NIT with the 42 teams that you put in there?
Well, yeah, I'm sure the NIT is going to have its own issues if they look deeper, Big C. It seems like they're going after the top dogs. It's almost like what you've said in the past. If you want to make a statement, you don't attack the people on the bottom. You attack the people on the top unless you're the NCAA. They'll go after all the young black kids that may have taken an envelope, but they won't go after a white guy on tape. Okay, his own words. And that's not enough to have them at least, suspended. And when he comes back, he gets an ovation at the University of Arizona. Now,
think about it. Well, that was part of Pitino's thing, Charlton.
Yeah.
Is that they alleged that they gave a recruit's family $100,000.
Yeah.
That was the allegedness against Pitino.
Yeah.
We don't have a tape.
No.
We just have the allegedness that the player was made ineligible to play, okay?
Yeah.
Because of these allegations. Now, we have a tape from the FBI. Well, I guess it's called the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Yeah, that's what I understand.
Some fake restaurant down in Arizona, I'm not sure.
Or Trump calls them the fake Bureau of Information. That's what Trump calls them.
but you have a coach doing on tape
Yeah.
from the FBI
Yeah.
what they accused Rick Pitino of.
Yeah.
Rick Pitino was put on administrative leave at that point.
Yep.
Sean Miller has the top-ranked team in that conference out there.
In the Pac-12, yeah. A lot of money.
And so they're slotted in the, to be potentially a number one,
Yeah.
selected team in the March Madness.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you take that away, now who do you make number one in the West?
Yeah.
And so the NCAA is looking at the overall money. Arizona travels well.
Yeah.
They're going to bring a host of fans with them.
Yeah.
They can easily make the Sweet 16,
Yeah.
if not the Elite Eight,
Yeah.
or the Final Four.
Final four, most likely.
But you're not cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Yeah.
You're going to let them play, and then you're going to investigate it at the end of the season.
Yeah.
But this is a coach, a white coach.
Yeah.
Now, if you got a black player on tape saying, I'll take $100,000,
Yeah.
you know he's not going to play.
Oh, my goodness. You just brought up another point because we talk about, my goodness, we talk about the fact that this whole thing of taking a social stand on impropriety. Now, I'm glad that players can get paid, but I hate the fact that someone gets fired over it when the player gets money, when they're getting, $10 million or $5 million a year. So on one hand, I'm not even torn. I'm glad that Miller helped a young black man get some money, okay? I'm glad that he did that. But the fact that other men are fired for helping young black men eat, that's what I disagree with. So I'm glad that he helped a young black kid get some money, Big C, because he knows he's getting $5 million and he can't help a black kid get $100,000. And if that black kid's not on the team, then he's probably not looking at a number one seed out of the Pac-12. He's probably looking at maybe a number 3 seed out of the Pac-12. And you just brought up the money. So going forward, even looking in the past, SMU, look at what happened to their program with Eric Dickerson and them good old boys, Craig James. And we saw what happened there. We saw what happened with USC and the great Pete Carroll and Reggie Bush. So they set a precedent that you could be caught on tape. Like Hulk Hogan and his best friend's wife, they were caught on tape too. She got $100 million. But for every young black athlete that's had a scholarship taken from him because he was starving, he was hungry, and somebody gave him some money, maybe a few $1,000s to go get some clothes and some food, and when it was found out, they dropped dime on him. He lost his scholarship, he lost a chance to further his career, and he lost his pride and all the other things that come along with that. So I just want to ask, do they have any recourse? Because the NCAA said you could be on tape and we'll still let you keep your job. That make any sense, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's always been unfair the way the NCAA operates. It's like society. You go after those who can less afford to lose.
Yeah.
Okay, that have the least ability to defend themselves.
Yeah.
Now, these coaches have these high-priced lawyers.
Yeah.
Okay, to walk in, write up a defense, and you have to listen to them.
Yeah.
These players, where would they get the money for this high-priced lawyer? Right off the bat, you're going to say that's an impropriety that he had the money
Yeah.
to be able to afford a lawyer.
Yeah.
He was broke when he got here.
Yeah.
How in the heck did he hire an attorney that's $5,000 a month?
GoFundMe.
Okay.
You got a GoFundMe account.
Got a GoFundMe account. You're not cashing in a loan again.
Yeah.
All of these things.
Yeah.
So the player really doesn't stand a chance when an allegation comes around.
Yeah.
But these coaches have attorneys, every one of them. And if you think about it, you name 25 top-tier programs. And of those programs that was named, I'm going to say the least amount of money any coach makes is $1.5 million to $1.75 million.
Yeah.
Okay? The highest is $9 million.
Yeah.
Okay? So they don't have an attorney on retainer? Yes, they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So who's going to win this battle?
Yeah. Well, that's something that I hope that they open up Pandora's box. Because just like Donald Trump grabbing the women by the vagina, said he didn't do it, it wasn't his voice, even though he was on video. But I think they've learned from the White House, just lie. And I'm not being flippant about that. Just lie about everything. Because it seems like if you blatantly lie and you're caught on tape, if you're white, they'll let you off. Now people can just look that up. Laura Ingham can even look it up, Big C. And when young black men are asking for equality, I'm glad that a white coach helped a young black kid get some money, and some white kids get money too. It's not just about black, but most of them are African Americans. And that's when the NCAA gets highly upset, is when young black kids start to profit, because they have this system set up of indentured servitude, with this pretension that you're getting an education while you're on an airplane 3 days a week flying across the country. How are you getting an education? You brought that up for the Big Ten tournament. So I'm glad that he opened the door to. Now, are they going to have to give back the $100,000 is the question, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, what they're saying is it never exchanged hands.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
It never exchanged hands. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
And everything now is done with a wire transfer, so you really don't change hands.
Yeah. Okay, it's semantics. Like Richard Pryor said, are you going to believe me or your lying eyes, when he was making love to the Playboy Bunny and his wife came home 2 days early? And he told her, look, honey, it's not me. We're just talking. Like, Richard, why are you in bed talking? He said, that's how she likes to talk, honey. You going to believe me or your lying eyes, Big C? But Richard Pryor knew a lot more than we even give him credit for back in the day, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when it gets down to this, the bottom line.
Yeah.
Is that the NCAA is dirty, been dirty for a long time, been crooked,
yeah,
and will always be.
Yeah.
Whenever people can make money off of lesser people,
yeah,
you can't expect those to make the money to be honest all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's what we talked about in revenue sharing.
Yeah.
How do you pay the college athlete?
You just told us you wire the money.
And everybody's talking about it's complicated.
It's not complicated.
It's not. 10% is not complicated.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's just, how does a player pay an agent?
Yeah.
It's bracketed on how much that agent can make.
Yeah.
The NFL has put caps on how much an agent can make off of a player.
Yeah.
The same thing you do with these universities. You put a cap on at 10%.
Yeah.
And that's the bar. 10% unilaterally in every collegiate sport. And that 10% is of that coach's salary in that sport.
Yeah.
That's what's delegated out to that team that he's coaching.
Yeah.
Whether it's water polo, tennis, baseball, soccer, hockey, basketball, baseball, whatever the sport is, Charlton.
Yep.
The swim team, the golf team.
Yeah.
Whatever that coach is paid, 10% of his salary is set aside, a fund from the university to pay those athletes participating in that particular sports.
Yeah. And that makes sense. It makes so much sense that I hope it finally happens. And for every player, it's almost like the marijuana law that just passed in California. They're trying to expunge the sentencing of some of the people, most of them people of color, who were incarcerated over that stuff that white kids were doing for free, and people know that. And the lawmakers have done that for free with impunity. And now they're trying to let some people out. I think you even mentioned there's a gentleman that was in the movie Cheech and Chong that's in some...
He's married. He got 8 years sentence down in Corcoran, California, for having paraphernalia.
Yeah.
Didn't have the marijuana. He had the paraphernalia.
Yep. The paraphernalia.
And they got him for trafficking.
Yeah. And we know what Russ Limbaugh's done and Robert Irsay. So we know that's part of what we got to keep bringing to the light. I hope that even though this might seem like he's getting away with something, Miller down there at Arizona, I really hope it's a prelude to helping some people get some financial help, because it's a shame when it's complicated to pay young black kids, but it's not complicated to get collectively white men over $1 billion with the NCAA March Madness. I think that's a shame, Big C. I do want to touch on just a few more things before we close. I want to just pay a little bit of homage to Hollywood before we close out with the NFL. We mentioned the Oscars. The Academy Awards been around since May 16th, 1929, when they had black and white TV, Big D. That's a lot of awards to give out, over 3,048 statuettes, and that's going to be on Sunday, ABC TV at 8 o'clock Eastern Time at the Dolby Theaters in Hollywood. And some of the star-studded presenters will be none other than Gail Gadot, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Gina Rodriguez, Armie Hammer, Mahershala Ali, Chadwick Boseman, the Black Panther, Viola Davis, Laura Dern, Jennifer Garner, Greta Gerwig, Tiffany Haddish, Tom Hanlon, Kumail Nanjiani, Margaret Robbie, one of my favorite actresses, also Emma Stone and Daniel Vega. And it's going to be hosted by Jimmy Kimmel, who was a great talk show host. And that's Hollywood Super Bowl. We know the garbage that Hollywood's been through with Weinstein and all the sexual assault and just the horrible treatment of women. And I'm sure men, too, they just don't talk about it, Big C. But what does Hollywood still do to pay homage to some of the victims as we give everybody a golden trophy to hold in their hand? But sometimes the men who were helping people get those trophies had hearts of stone as they were taking advantage of people. What message can Hollywood send to say that we're going to do something to protect people going forward, not just this one time? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I think Hollywood has to do a full-fledged acknowledgement to what's gone on in the Me Too movement, Charlton.
Yeah.
And you just can't walk away from this because there's been so much of their fabric over the decades.
Yep.
And they need to, every time they get an opportunity to shine a light on this horrific, acting that has been going, this characteristic of people that have been going on over the years, Charlton.
Yeah.
And disrespecting and not protecting women and even men, Charlton.
Yeah.
Is that Hollywood has to stay in the forefront because Hollywood is what everyone looks at beyond sports.
Yeah.
Those are the two most dynamics in the U.S.
Yep.
And that's what bothers me now with some of these sports talk shows, Charlton.
Yeah.
It's almost like Larry Nassar didn't exist. He's old news and they won't speak about it.
Yeah.
There are still young ladies out there that are going through these horrific acts by people that they're supposed to respect and think that they're going to be protected by.
Yeah.
But since the sports talk shows don't speak about it anymore, it's like Larry Nassar's incident did not occur. The Olympic Committee is still there that allowed Larry Nassar to do this.
Yeah.
Michigan State is still there that allowed Larry Nassar to do this. There's still ongoing sexual misconduct allegations at Michigan State.
Yeah.
With all of their sports teams, Charlton.
Yeah.
But they won't highlight on it.
Yeah.
They want to say it's not time to talk about it. It's just like the gun laws in the U.S. It's not time to talk about it. When we had the shooting down in Florida, Charlton.
Yeah.
That same day, in another middle school in America, we had the shooting.
Yeah.
It just did not get the coverage of Florida.
Yeah.
A young man brought an AR-15 to school. He left messages and notes that he wanted to have a mass shooting. He was in the 7th grade. He was 13 years old, Charlton.
Wow.
He came to campus with an AR-13. Unfortunately and fortunately, this young man went into the bathroom and took his own life instead of taking the lives of the other students.
Wow.
But it was buried because of the incident that happened in Florida.
Yeah.
This was a 7th grader, a 13-year-old that was going to enact that. But he heard the news of what happened in Florida, and he went in and killed himself.
Wow. Wow.
We also had an incident today at Western Michigan University where a student shot his parents in his dorm room.
Wow.
The day that the students were to be let out on spring break. His father was a law enforcement officer in Chicago,
Yeah.
and his mother. And he assassinated both of them in his schoolroom.
That's horrible.
So when we talk about these school shootings that go on, and just 2 days ago in Georgia, there was a teacher who barricaded himself in his office with his firearm and started firing off.
That's
So
just
Trump
incredible.
wants to
Yeah.
arm these teachers. Now, this guy was licensed and armed to fire,
Wow.
to carry.
Wow.
So what's the mental stability of anybody with a gun?
None.
That means that
Seems-
they have a problem. And I don't care whether you've done a background check or anything. This guy was licensed to carry in a school. So he was trained.
Yeah.
So these are the same people that Trump wants to say, let's give him a gun.
Yeah.
They're breaking up with their wife. Their wife is leaving. They pull a Richard Pryor. They walked in and caught their wife in bed with somebody.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Yeah.
They're filing bankruptcy.
Yep.
Anything, Charlton. What's the stress point to set somebody off?
That's why.
So we can't put that in front of our kids.
Amen to that. I'm glad that we bring it up and we talk about it before and more people are saying it, that sports will actually bring our society closer together faster than religion. We know a lot faster than politics. Where else can you go And if you're a college program, where can you go to get 15 to 20,000 people inside an arena for a 2.5-hour basketball game? Where can you go if you're a college football program and you want to get 50 to 100,000 people inside of a stadium? Different religion, different ethnic groups, different beliefs, but they galvanize around a sports team. And that's why I think these sports athletes, the ones that are socially conscious, when we start bringing attention to this, we can help cut out some of this pain, and we got to put pressure on our politicians too. We got to let them know that's not acceptable. So no matter whether it's Hollywood or whether it's the NCAA or pro sports or even our broadcast brethren, Big C, especially the African Americans, I'm so proud that, number one, I've learned a lot listening to you because you lived through that stuff down south. You understand what it's like when TVs aren't there, when the media's not there. You know how people are treated. We know what happened with the integration of schools. It always took black Americans. If people can realize that, how wrong Laura Ingraham was by saying shut up and dribble, if it wasn't for black Americans, then we would still be slaves because we fought for independence. We fought for equality. And Rosa Parks not giving up her seat to a white man. She was right, universally right, even though the law treated her wrong. So for people who want to end this gun violence, I really do believe if we get more of our sports figures to say don't do it, the same way the NFL had a commercial about no more to women, to hitting women, Big C, we got to keep speaking about it because I think there's traction with it, so I appreciate you for that. Last thing I want to touch on before we close, I know UFC is big, and there's a great boxer by the name of Cyborg. She's 18-1, and she's fighting Yana Kunitskaya, who's 10-3. That fight's going to be in Las Vegas on Saturday night, mixed martial arts, the UFC 222. I think she's such a dominant fighter, and we saw how she beat down Holly Holm. And I don't know if there's a match for her, but why would someone at 10-3 be thrown into the ring with Cyborg? I know anything can happen in the world of MMA, but do you see that she should be fighting someone more established and not someone who just been to 13 pro fights? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you take your turn when your chance comes up. Anybody can become champion.
Yeah.
When you're looking at a fighting match, one or two punches can change the course of a fight.
Yeah.
You take this opportunity now because you can have another 10 fights and your career could be over.
Yeah.
You can suffer an injury. This champ may have retired Cyborg by then.
Yeah.
You just don't walk away from an opportunity to win a championship in sports. And that's what you get into any professional sports for.
Yeah.
Because you're competitive.
Yeah.
And when your time arrives, you hope that you're the best prepared to take on that opportunity.
Well, I think you're right about that. We saw what happened when Mike Tyson was on top and he had to fight with Buster Douglas. It was almost a one and done for Buster Douglas, but Mike Tyson went on to keep fighting. But whenever you're the champion, you can't take anything lightly. I just think Cyborg's in a class by her own. As I spoke to a writer today who actually, does Olympics, and Raquel Williams, she's written for the Olympics. She's even interviewed the great Ronda Rousey, and she talked about fighting and how she's loved it and been following fighting for over 20 years, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in America or South America. So the fight world is big. I know that's an industry that's growing. I wish all the fighters great success, and I wish everyone a lot of health and happiness this weekend. Big C, as we close, I appreciate so much of what's happened. I know we got through Black History Month. We finished up on our anniversary, 2-year anniversary of Big C Sports. I appreciate so much that you bring to the broadcast universe. I hear a lot of things that you talk about that are emulated and regurgitated by other broadcast brethren. I think emulation is a great form of compliment. Just want to get your thoughts as we close out our second year and this week that we've had of bringing Big C Sports to the universe. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I've really enjoyed every day and every opportunity we've had to be on the air. I think to be able to bring some different insight and perspectives to the world of broadcasting and multifaceted, not just sports, but politics, the way we incorporate it, the way no other group does, Charlton, is that, it's a boldness. It goes back to that Star Trek.
Yeah.
To boldly go where no man has gone before. And I think that's what our show does.
Yeah.
We don't have that filter of fear. We have the understanding of reality.
Yep.
And when we talk about sports, we're not fans to sit there and say that this guy is better than anything that we've ever seen before.
Yeah.
Because I still haven't had that best glass of milk that I'm ever going to have, okay? So
Not yet.
I'm still waiting on it to show up. And so when I look at athletes, I appreciate what they've all given to the world of entertainment.
Yeah.
How they've enlightened so many lives, how they've enriched so many minds. And, you know, the thing is that they make the youth dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you do. You expand the youth mind and make them dream.
Yeah.
And so if we can incorporate our society and have our society make as good as our sports makes our society feel, we would have a wonderful place, Jonathan. The United States is a great nation.
Oh, yeah.
But it also is a great nation of many flaws.
Yeah. Yeah.
The one flaw that's the least of all is sports. Because sports brings you jubilation.
Yeah.
It brings you frustration. It brings you sadness.
Yeah.
But all of those, on the flip side, are the opposite to everybody else.
That's a very good point. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you've got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, right now the NBA is getting close to just 20 games left in the regular season, and the true jockeying is going to come now to where teams are going to be seated. I know, when Cleveland made the trade and they won 2 consecutive games, everybody figured that they were a surefire bet to make it back to the Eastern Final.
Yep.
Right now, Charlton, Cleveland has lost 3 games since the All-Star break. Last night they were drubbed by Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And they were held underneath 100 points.
Yeah.
This year, Charlton, being held under the 100-point margin, Cleveland is 1-12.
Wow.
They're going to have to find a way to be more consistent offensively, and they can't blame it on Isaiah Thomas now.
They can't blame it on Isaiah Thomas. They also can't blame it on every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, following Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America, and Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. But as we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. No woman or man should ever have to deal with that garbage. And as we tell you, if you know anyone going through it, just call 911. And on every week on Big C Sports, we'll tell you we appreciate you, we thank you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.